Hey, what's going on YouTube? My name is Curtis. I'm documenting my AWS journey. I'm documenting my cybersecurity process. I'm into AI. I'm into cloud. I'm currently studying for my AWS Solutions Architect, which I should be ready. I got a whole bunch of AWS certifications, so I'm just kind of documenting my journey and sharing that and trying to build a community around that journey. And hopefully we could build a community and spread that and provide that education for everybody else. Okay, so without further ado, so AWS Explained EC2 is pretty much the foundation of what you're going to do in AWS. Pretty much everything you're going to do in AWS is going to be connected to an EC2, right? Okay, so pretty much in AWS, right, you have cloud, right? So when you go to cloud and you're making your adjustment to cloud or your journey, you're a business and you have an on-premise center and you're thinking about venturing to the cloud. You can stop trying to guess your server needs in advance, because traditional infrastructure, it's pretty much based on prediction. Like, okay, what do I do in this situation? How much CPU do I need? Or do I know if I'm going to be getting any traffic or anything like that? Because if I get traffic, I can't turn it off, and I'm just paying for stuff that's going to be in my house, it's running on my electricity bill. So for that, for traditional infrastructure is built on prediction. Cloud is pretty much built on precision, right? It's very efficient. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so EC2, they are like virtual servers. They're pretty much like computers that you own, that you maintain in the cloud. So it's called Amazon Elastic Compute, or for short, it's going to be EC2. It's the foundation, like I was talking about, of cloud compute. So instead of buying and maintaining these physical and hardware that's just sitting in your house taking up space, EC2 lets you rent raw compute power on demand, and you get full control over your OS, you get full control over your CPU, memory, and networking with zero upfront hardware costs. So, I don't know, if you're a business, you had to pay for upfront for all your servers and all your storage. And with the cloud, pretty much you could modify your own OS. So if you're a Mac person, or if you're a Windows person, or you're like a Linux Ubuntu person like myself, you could configure that or however you like. And then you could have as much CPU as you like, depending on your case. Maybe you're running like high analytics database for your server, or you're running like a multiplayer gaming online, and you can have as much memory as you want to. You could configure it the way you want. You could have as much CPU as you want. You could have as much storage as you want. It's just really up to your use case. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so it's gonna be for EC2. You can pretty much have web and API hosting. You have your backend and dev ops. So we're talking about, it can handle any kind of workload. We're talking about simple web and API hosting using Nginx, or you can use Apache. It's kind of up to you for backend environments, for multiplayer game servers, or heavy duty compute, optimized for like intense machine learning, if that's your thing. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So it's going to be for rapid dynamic adaptability. So dynamic, it's pretty much like you don't need any kind of human intervention to intervene. Is Amazon scalability and dynamic adaptability is pretty much going to do its own thing on its own self. So there's no need for you to configure anything. Everything, most of the servers are managed by Amazon. So, and it handles, so the real superpower is pretty much the speed and adaptability. So instead of waiting for weeks for your physical hardware, you can launch pretty much an instance in minutes. It's so easy. So you could pair with EC2 auto scaling group. You could compare it with your your elastic load balancers, and it scales up during traffic spikes and scales down when that's over. So pretty much what that means is that it's pretty much when your auto scaling group is pretty much a group of EC2s that it controls, right? So what's going to happen is that maybe you have a maybe like a CloudWatch that's attached to your auto scaling group, right? And it's the metric it's using is maybe compute power. It's utilized maybe over 50%. So that's indicating that you have a whole bunch of traffic that's going to your app. So now we need to create more instances, EC2, so we could accommodate for that demand. So what your auto scaling group is going to do, it's going to see, oh, the 50% of CPU power is going up, so something must be going on. So we have to create more EC2 instances to compensate for that demand. So it's probably going to spin up like 2 more instances so we can spin up with the demand. So when the traffic dies down, it's going to be like, oh, okay, CPU is under 50%, so we could pretty much take off those 2 EC2 instances, which is pretty efficient because now you're not paying for the extra EC2 that you don't need, that which you'll be doing in your own household, right? You can just take it out as much as you need, and actually you're not taking it out, it's actually the auto scaling group that's taking it out. That's the cool thing. So we'll talk about auto scaling group, we'll talk about like elastic load balancers in the future, but I'll touch on elastic load balancers temporarily. Okay, so elastic load balancer is pretty much like it distributes traffic to your EC2 instances, right? So if you have like 3 EC2 instances, your EC2 is not going to be handling maybe just one. All 3 of them, your EOB, which I call it, or your elastic load balancer, is going to distribute traffic to all 3. And this creates like high availability, right? Because if you have one server, one EC2 that's utilizing or taking most of the workload, then you have risk of it going down. You have risk of it like having network failure, and it's pretty much slow. So that's gonna kill your high availability, and the risk might be like your app might be slow. This could cause some inconvenience for your customers, whoever is like trying to utilize your app. So pretty much your ELB is gonna check the health checks of the EC2s, right? So if the EC2 is not healthy, it's not gonna send anything over there. If it is healthy, it's gonna send it over there. If your EC2 is busy, it's not gonna send it over there at the moment. It's gonna keep on changing. All right, so let me switch to the next one. So we're not talking about EC2. It rarely works along like I said before. EC2 is going to be your foundation for everything. So we're talking about it's the central engine of AWS. It connects with S3. It's going to connect with your RDS database. It's going to connect with IAM for security roles. So pretty much what IAM, we'll talk about RDS, we'll talk about S3, we'll talk about IAM, but I'll touch on IAM because I'm a security guy. I'm a cybersecurity guy. So that's my thing. So pretty much IAM, it pretty much controls the behavior of what goes into your EC2 instances and what goes out. So pretty much if I have a user, right, and I don't want that user like touching my EC2 instances, right, or if you have an app, right, and you don't want certain users going to your EC2, you control it. You can control it with the IAM, with a policy or a role or a group or something like that, and it will control the behavior of who could access your EC2 and how your EC2 is going out of traffic to as well. And I think that is it for my first video. I'm surprised I did really good. Okay, so let me. Sorry. So the core building blocks, we're talking about S3. These are the core building blocks. We'll talk about this later. We're talking about RDS. We'll talk about IAM roles and ASG and ELB. So we're building a public. Drop a comment on what AWS service we should talk about next time. If you have any suggestions or comments, just go ahead and leave it. I'm very responsive, and that is it. Nice to talk to you, and that's it. You have a good day. Bye.